Hey guys, Turles and stuff here. Anyway, here's the 1920 Elgin Andes. Actually, the more and more I look up about this toilet, the more and more I'm starting to realize it's actually YouTube first. Because I can't find a sliver of information on this bowl or this tank at all, period. Like, there's no way. I look it up on Elgin websites, Elgin catalogs from the past. They don't have any information on this bowl. And it doesn't really surprise me because this bowl was made before Elgin went into the HVAC industry, which is where they became more popular as a toilet manufacturer and more experienced, I guess, because this toilet, the way it was constructed and glazed, is not nearly as good as the Elgins in the 30s and 40s. The glaze is all crazed and it's cracked. Every single inch of glaze on this bowl is cracked. If you hold the light up to it, it looks like a puzzle. It's like the glaze was not applied in a way that was going to make it last and not crack like that. But it happens in a lot of toilets of this era because I don't think a lot of companies even knew how to do it like 100% correctly back then. But it does work and there's no major problems with it. Anyway, back to the ballcock. Here's the ballcock. This is original to the toilet. This was put in the day of the manufacture. The toilet's made in 1920. So this ballcock's 100 years old, and it does still work. I managed to rebuild it by making my own gaskets. I had to buy a sheet of rubber and cut the gaskets out of it and actually repack the valve. It leaks a tiny bit out the top, but it doesn't leak when it shuts off. But anyway, there's a problem because the original refill tube was completely corroded through, like right through, like you could see a giant hole in the side of it. And when I tried to remove it, it just snapped off, or it snapped off all the way down to the nub. So the only way to get the thing out, I had to take a pair of pliers and kind of try to turn it, and it ended up destroying the threads in the process because it's soft metal. So this won't screw into it anymore. I ordered some thread tappers, but I doubt they'll be the right size very much because I don't know what size these threads are. I just bought like a giant assortment of small thread tappers in metric to see what would happen. But anyway, this is how I have it fitted up right now. I have this tube. I cut it at the end, slit in the end of it so it would taper down into the hole, and I fed it over here. This should work, and it probably will outlast the rest of the toilet for the rest of the life of the toilet. Honestly, this toilet probably has, I don't know, 40, 60 years before it completely breaks. But anyway, this is probably how it's going to be outfitted for probably until I either decide to replace the ballcock or just whatever, just to get it working, because it's 100 years old. It's kind of impressive that it's still even alive and working. So anyway, if you want to see this ballcock actually working and shutting off, you can look in my video, 100-year-old brass ballcock test. I think that's what it's called. And it's where I'm in my basement and I'm hooking up a water supply line from an old sink that we used to have down there before we renovated. We had to rip everything out because the basement flooded. And I have it hooked up to a tube which is not properly done. So it leaks out at the bottom, but it's cement. It's not going to do no damage to any structure, and it's just a tiny bit of water. Plus I have a bucket underneath it to catch any water that could possibly fall, and that's where I tested to see if it would seal, and it did seal. And another thing is you can kind of tell that it seals because when you fill up this tank, the water level is above the valve, so the water will drain down into the valve and make it leak out the bottom of the tank where the thing goes into the whatever, the outlet or whatever. But the little hole, it goes in the little hole where the refill tube's supposed to go, and it drains out the bottom. But when the ball rises, it stops dripping. So that's how you know it's sealing correctly. And that's not with a lot of pressure either. The ball is not getting that much pressure on it, and it still works. So anyway, that's about it. And as you can see at the bottom, there's a little bit of water in here. I've had this water in here for about 3 or 4 days, and there's no dripping on the bottom. This is just to test my seal. And because there's crazing cracks in the bottom of the tank, this one particular worried me. I put a little bit of super glue on it anyway, but super glue is not really good for repairing cracks, but this one doesn't leak at all. There's no dripping at all. It goes all the way. The interesting thing is, I don't know if it's in the glaze. I doubt it because it doesn't leak, but it goes all the way to the inside of the tank. But the thing about that is the tank is glazed outside through this hole, the inside of the hole where the actually goes in, like where the rim is of the tank is glazed and outside's glazed. So it could be a long crack on the glaze. Who knows? But anyway, it doesn't leak, so I'm not worried about it at all, and it's not spreading at all. So that's good. Plus, it's probably been there since the toilet was installed or a few years after it was, because this tank is defective, which is an interesting point. The bottom of it is warped. It's basically the bottom of it, the middle is higher where the flush valve is than it is on the sides. So that means that the nut will not rest flat on the bottom of the tank, and it stresses 2 points where the cracks are actually stemming from. So the glaze cracks, the worst glaze cracks, the ones that are really dark, and they actually like look problematic, but they're not. But anyway, that's why, because this tank actually is warped on the bottom. It's defective. The bowl doesn't have any problems with cracking except for the crazing, and there's one dark crack, which is crazing, but it's just crazing that got filled with dirt. But anyway, I can't feel the cracks, so there's no problem with that. There's two of them. There's one way down there, it's hardly, and there's one on the side of it, which is very common. I see it all the time. Although I look on eBay, Craigslist, toilets that are this old always have at least a couple of cracks in them. Probably pre-1920, they seem to get more cracks in them. After about 1925, maybe 1923, you don't really see that anymore as much, but in the really early areas you see that a lot more, because the glaze they used and the way they applied it, which is with a brush, they didn't use a spray thing, was a lot more primitive. Actually, you can tell it was with a brush, because if you look at the tank in a certain light, you can see the strokes that they used. It's actually really cool. I kind of prefer it to the traditional way, but that's why these glazes crack a lot. And the sink, same thing. The sink, I think, is enameled. I think they probably use some type of spray because they can't really paint unless they prepare the surface. I think they put a thin layer slip on the sink because they fire the cast iron, I'm pretty sure, in the oven with this on it. So, but anyway, that's it for the video. And as always, don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, and subscribe so you can see more toilets, and I can keep having fun, and you can keep having fun. Alrighty, bye. See you in the next video.